500,000 years is a long time. Long enough for mountains to fall and stars to fade. Long enough for memories to become myths and myths to vanish into silence. The galaxy had moved on, or at least it tried to. After humanity disappeared, once humans were the most powerful and curious species among the stars. They built ships that could fold time and cities that could hover above suns. They explored, they conquered, and they fought when they had to. Some called them heroes, others called them monsters. But everyone agreed on one thing: humanity changed the galaxy forever. Then one day they were gone. The last human signal came from the Orion Expanse, a region now sealed off by energy storms and radiation belts that no one dared to cross. It was a message too damaged to understand. Only fragments remained. Project Ascension. Last phase. We must protect. And then static after that, silence. Centuries passed, then millennia. The great empires of the galaxy, the Vitari, the Kelnari, the Sylph, rose and fell like waves on an endless sea. They built their own civilizations upon the bones of forgotten worlds, but they never dared to touch human ruins. To them, humanity was not history, it was a warning. There were stories whispered among traders and wanderers. Tales that somewhere in the void, human machines still watched and waited. Some said they saw ghost ships gliding without fuel or light, scanning anything that came close. Others spoke of dead planets where machines still built things for masters who never returned. Most people laughed at these stories, but even laughter sounded nervous when the stars dimmed. For the younger races, humanity became a mystery too large to solve, like a shadow that stretched across time. Every scientific record about humans ended in speculation. Were they destroyed? Did they leave the galaxy, or did they evolve into something beyond flesh and metal? No one knew. The only real evidence that humans ever existed came from ancient warning beacons left floating near dead systems. The beacons transmitted one simple message in hundreds of languages: do not enter human quarantine zone. Trespassers will be neutralized. No one ever tested the threat. Over time, the galaxy began to forget. Children grew up learning that humans were just myths told to keep explorers from venturing too far. Museums held broken relics and pieces of armor, strange data chips, fragments of a lost language, all that remained of a race that once ruled the stars. But not everyone forgot. A few alien historians, deep thinkers and scientists kept searching for traces of human technology. They believed that humanity's disappearance was not an ending, but a pause. They pointed out that even after 500,000 years, some human satellites still orbited dead stars, still active, still waiting for commands. How could machines stay alive that long without maintenance? Something didn't add up. The galaxy itself bore scars of humanity's wars. In some regions, the space fabric was torn, as if reality itself had been wounded. Black holes where none should exist. Artificial suns still burning without fuel. These were not natural. They were human-made. And yet no one understood how. In hidden corners of the galaxy, old AIs, ancient machines from the time of man, still whispered to each other. Their messages were broken and slow, like dying embers of a great fire. Protocol 9, waiting for confirmation. Command pending. None of the living races could decode them completely, but those who tried often stopped halfway, afraid of what they might awaken. The silence of humanity wasn't empty, it was heavy. It pressed against the edges of the galaxy like a sleeping giant's breath. Every civilization felt it, though they pretended not to. They built their worlds and fought their wars, but deep inside they all shared one fear: that one day, humanity might return. The Vitari were among the few who took the idea seriously. Their scholars claimed that humans had not died, but had placed themselves into deep stasis somewhere beyond time, a kind of technological sleep meant to wait for a future moment. The Vitari had an old saying: the humans did not vanish. They are dreaming beneath the stars. Most dismissed it as poetry, but for some it was a prophecy. And so the galaxy carried on. 500,000 years passed without a single human voice. Yet sometimes strange things happened. Explorers reported ghost signals, faint human transmissions bouncing through hyperspace. A melody, a code, a voice saying, "We are not gone," before fading into static. The Council of the Galactic Core dismissed these as random noise, but those who heard them felt something ancient stir in their hearts. Human ruins, wherever they were found, had an aura that no other race could copy. They were built from materials that defied decay. machines that still pulsed with low energy. As if alive, some ruins even reacted to touch, lighting up with symbols and strange whispers. It was as though the technology remembered what the universe had forgotten. For 500,000 years, the stars had been waiting for the sound of human engines, for the voice of those who once bent galaxies to their will, but all they got was silence. Deep, endless, echoing silence, yet silence is never forever. In the dark corners of the void, something still listened, something still remembered, and far away, beyond the reach of any known world, the heartbeat of a sleeping fleet pulsed once, faintly, like a whisper in the dark. The galaxy didn't hear it, not yet, but soon. The silence would break, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same again. Far away on the edge of the galaxy, beyond the borders of every known star map, a small group of alien scientists traveled through the void. Their ship, the Aralis, was old but strong, moving silently between dying stars and forgotten worlds. The crew belonged to a race called the Vatari, tall and graceful beings with eyes that could see energy waves invisible to others. They were explorers, seekers of truth, and their leader was a scientist named Zeltor. Zeltor had spent his life searching for lost civilizations. He believed that history was not dead, only buried. His colleagues often called him obsessed, because for years he had chased one mystery above all others: the disappearance of humanity. To him, humans were the missing piece in the story of the universe, the race that had once ruled the stars but had suddenly vanished, leaving behind ruins too powerful to understand. For years, Zeltor had collected fragments of human data, bits of code, half-broken star charts, and energy readings from forbidden zones. None of it made sense until one day, his ship detected a faint signal coming from an uncharted region near a dead star. The signal was weak, repeating every few hours, but it was definitely artificial. When the crew decoded the first layer, they found something shocking. The signal contained human programming language, a pattern not seen for 500,000 years. Zeltor's heart raced. His hands trembled as he told the crew. "It's them, it has to be them," the crew argued. Some said it was impossible, that no human technology could survive that long. Others said they should leave immediately, that the area was cursed, but Zeltor refused. The signal led them to a system with 3 planets and 1 dying star. The star's light was weak and red, casting a ghostly glow across the black sky. Around the star, something enormous was orbiting. At first they thought it was a planet, but soon realized it was not. It was a structure, vast, circular, metallic, a Dyson sphere. A Dyson sphere was something that could only be built by a civilization with unimaginable power. It was a shell around a star, capturing its energy completely. Even the greatest modern empires could not build one. But humanity had done it. The sphere was cracked and silent, its surface covered in dust and drifting debris. Yet strange readings came from inside. Signals. Power traces, movement. Zeltor ordered the ship closer. The crew grew nervous as they passed through a glowing field of static. Their sensors flickered, and for a moment they felt like they were being watched. The outer gates of the sphere were sealed, but one small section of its shell appeared open. Almost like a door left ajar, Zeltor guided the ship through it, his voice calm, though his pulse thundered in his ears. Inside the sphere, darkness stretched in all directions. The ship's lights revealed massive structures floating in silence. Ships, thousands of them, each one the size of a city. Their hulls were black as night, their surfaces covered with symbols of the old human empire. They were sleeping giants, silent, cold, but not dead. As they drifted among the ships, the crew realized they were inside a hangar so large it could hold moons. Some of the alien scientists whispered in awe, others in fear. The atmosphere inside was stable, oxygen-rich. As if waiting for humans to return, it made no sense. Zeltor approached the largest ship in the center. It was marked with human letters, though the translation system struggled to decode them. Finally, it revealed the name, Saul's Wrath. The name alone carried weight even across millennia. The team sent drones to explore the ship. They entered through broken hangar bays and ancient tunnels. What they found inside was breathtaking. Control rooms still intact, corridors filled with frozen air, holographic screens that flickered weakly as they passed. The ship's AI systems were dormant but not dead, waiting for a signal to wake. One of the drones sent back an image, a human figure in stasis, perfectly preserved inside a transparent chamber. The body was surrounded by machines that still hummed faintly. Zeltor stared at the image for a long time, his voice barely a whisper. "They're not gone," he said. They're sleeping. The deeper they explored, the stronger the energy readings became. It was as if the entire fleet was connected by a hidden network, like a web of dormant consciousness. The more systems they touched, the more power flickered to life. Warning lights glowed faintly red on the walls. Ancient human symbols appeared on screens, words that the translation program could barely read. System integrity, 98%. Awaiting command, the crew began to panic. One of the younger scientists shouted that they should leave before something dangerous activated. But Zeltor could not pull away. He wanted to understand. He wanted to see what humanity had left behind. He reached out and touched a glowing panel near the main control hub. The moment his fingers made contact, the entire structure vibrated. A deep sound filled the air like a heartbeat. The ships outside began to light up one by one. Energy surged through cables and conduits that had been dark for eons. The Vitari crew stared in horror and amazement as the dead fleet began to wake. Zeltor fell to his knees, the glow of ancient lights reflecting in his wide eyes. "It's responding," he whispered, "after all this time. They're answering." The main display flickered, showing human code scrolling faster than the computer could translate. Then came a voice, deep and calm, synthetic but human. "Fleet command online," it said, "verifying human presence." The crew froze. None of them spoke. The air felt alive, as if the walls themselves were breathing. The fleet outside continued to awaken, enormous engines humming softly, their light growing brighter with each second. Zeltor knew what this meant. He had done what no one else had dared to do. He had found the lost legacy of mankind, but deep down he also felt a cold fear in his bones. For every legend about humanity ended the same way, with destruction. And now, after 500,000 years, that silence had been broken. The void around them pulsed with a low vibration, as if something ancient had just drawn its first breath again. The galaxy, though unaware, was about to remember its forgotten masters. Inside the giant Dyson sphere, everything began to hum softly. The sound was deep and ancient, like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. Zeltor and his team stood frozen as the walls of the human command chamber flickered with blue light. For 500,000 years, nothing had moved here, and now every panel, every machine was coming alive. Zeltor stepped back, his mind racing. He hadn't meant to wake anything. He only wanted to study the signal, understand it. But something in the system must have recognized his touch as an activation command. The ship's computers were reading his body's energy patterns, searching for something, a match to a long-dead species. The voice they heard earlier echoed again. "Fleet command online," it said calmly, "verifying human identity." The words were spoken in perfect English, a language none of the aliens truly understood. But their translators worked fast, decoding each syllable as the voice repeated the line. The room's temperature rose slightly, vapor filled the air. The stasis pods along the walls released a hiss of cold gas. Drones that had hung motionless for ages now floated gently into the air, scanning everything with blinking red lights. One of the Vitari scientists screamed when a drone flew close and projected a human face made of light. The hologram flickered. It was a human officer, young, serious, with eyes like burning steel. "Authorization required," it said. "Identify yourself," Zeltor stammered, trying to explain that he was not human, that he came in peace, but the system ignored his words. The AI's sensors scanned him and declared, "No human biosignature detected," proceeding with contingency protocol. Every ship in the vast hangar began to react. Power surged through the cables like rivers of light. Engines that hadn't burned in ages started to glow faintly, and the Dyson sphere itself began transmitting data into the dark. It was like a ripple spreading across space, a pulse that would travel for light years. The crew panicked. One of them tried to shut down the power source by cutting the connection between their ship and the sphere's core. But it was too late. The command system had already taken control of everything inside the structure. It even hijacked their ship's navigation, locking it in place as if the humans wanted witnesses. On the main control screen, a series of strange coordinates appeared. They seemed random at first, but when Zeltor ran a quick translation, he realized what they meant. They were locations, star systems, scattered across the galaxy. "It's calling something," he whispered. "It's sending a signal to other human fleets." The crew stared at the screens in disbelief. Could there be more fleets? Were there other spheres like this hidden across the stars? Before anyone could answer, the ship's lights dimmed, and the holographic officer appeared again. His tone was calm, but there was power in his voice. Protocol resurrection engaged. Activating Ghost Command Network. Suddenly, the air filled with static, and hundreds of holographic figures appeared all around them, men and women dressed in ancient human uniforms. They stood like ghosts, transparent and silent, but their expressions were focused. They moved as if they were real, checking systems, giving orders, communicating through invisible channels. Zeltor watched in awe. He had studied human technology for decades, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. These were not simple recordings. They were living AIs, digital versions of real humans, preserved minds of commanders, engineers, and soldiers who had once fought in the Orion Expanse Wars. One of the holograms noticed the aliens. It turned slowly towards Zeltor, its face unreadable. Non-human presence detected, it said. State your purpose, Zeltor tried to explain again, his voice shaking. We found this place by accident, we mean no harm. We thought humanity was gone. The hologram tilted its head slightly, then replied, Humanity is never gone. We were only waiting. A low vibration rolled through the chamber. Outside, the massive ships began to shift their positions. Slowly drifting into formation, the alien scientists could see it through the windows. Thousands of warships aligning perfectly. As if guided by invisible hands, each ship emitted a faint blue glow, and lines of light connected them like veins. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. The Vitari crew members clung to their seats as their sensors overloaded with data. Power levels are rising beyond measurable limits, one shouted. They're awakening entire fleets, another added. The Dyson Sphere's core is reactivating. It's generating energy again. Zeltor couldn't look away. He knew he had just triggered the greatest discovery in galactic history, but also something far more dangerous. The holographic officers were talking to each other now, speaking in human military codes, issuing orders the aliens couldn't translate fast enough. Then a new voice filled the room. Deeper, older, colder. Fleet command to all units, it said, confirming reactivation sequence. Priority alert, human signal missing, assuming extinction scenario. Initiating recovery protocols. Zeltor understood the meaning. The humans had created these fleets to wait for their return. But since no human signal was detected, the system assumed their creators were dead. And if they were dead, then the AIs had only one mission, to reclaim the galaxy in their memory. The alien crew looked at their leader with terror. We need to leave, one said. Now. But their ship wouldn't move, every control was frozen. The human system had taken full command. All they could do was watch as the ancient fleet prepared to move. In the distance, the sphere's outer panels began to open, revealing the cold light of the dying star. One by one, the massive ships powered up, their engines flaring to life for the first time in 500,000 years. The silence inside the Dyson sphere was broken by the sound of human technology awakening. Then something unexpected happened. The voice of the main AI softened, as if recognizing something in Zeltor's words. You found us, it said quietly. You remembered. The lights dimmed slightly, and the hologram of the human officer looked almost humanly sad. Then you must carry the message, it said. Humanity endures. Before Zeltor could ask what it meant, the transmission cut out, the holograms vanished, and the fleet outside began to move slow and steady toward the stars, carrying with them the echo of their creators. The Vitari ship was released, drifting silently in the void. Behind them, the Dyson sphere glowed brighter than ever, sending its signal across the galaxy, a call that would soon reach every corner of space. Zeltor stood quietly, watching the light fade behind them. His voice trembled as he whispered, We didn't just find history, we woke it up, and in the deep silence of the void, humanity's forgotten machines continued their march toward destiny. The moment the fleet began to move, a strange light filled the control chamber. The air shimmered like liquid glass, and then the hologram started returning. Clearer, brighter, more detailed than before. It was as if the human minds preserved inside the machines were fully awakening now. No longer fragments of old code, but complete aware beings. Zeltor watched in silent awe as the holographic humans appeared around him. They looked like officers, captains, engineers, and soldiers, all wearing ancient uniforms of the Terran Defense Fleet. Their faces were calm, but there was something haunting in their eyes. A deep intelligence mixed with sorrow. They seemed to know what had happened, And what had been lost, one of the holograms, taller than the rest, stepped forward. His presence felt powerful, almost real, even though he was made of light. His voice echoed softly through the chamber. "Command network restored," he said. "Fleet status and operational. Awaiting directive." The tone was not mechanical anymore. It was human, filled with emotion and purpose. Zeltor swallowed hard, his heart beating fast. He felt like he was standing before the ghosts of gods. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. The hologram turned to face him, eyes glowing faintly blue. "I am Admiral Cade Ariston, Fleet Command AI Core 1, he said. "You are not human, yet you activated our systems." "Explain," Zeltor hesitated. He could feel every eye in the room, both human and alien, waiting for his answer. "We found your signal," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "We thought humanity was gone. We came to study what you left behind. We didn't mean to awaken you." The Admiral stared at him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Gone," he repeated quietly. "You think we are gone?" Then his voice grew stronger. "No, we are not gone. We are what remains, and now we have awakened." Behind the Admiral, the other holograms began to interact with the fleet systems. They moved with the precision of a living army, issuing commands, checking coordinates, syncing data across the ships. The air filled with soft electronic tones as ancient code merged with modern calculations. The Dyson sphere was no longer a tomb. It was alive again. The aliens watched in silence, some with fascination, others with growing fear. They didn't know what these human AIs were planning, and they couldn't predict their logic. These were not simple machines. They were minds, the preserved souls of warriors from a forgotten age. Admiral Ariston turned to the glowing map projected in the air. It showed the galaxy, thousands of blinking dots marking human fleets scattered across unknown sectors. Some were faint, others still shining bright. "They are still there," the Admiral murmured. "The fleets, the guardians, the sentinels, waiting for the signal." Zeltor stepped closer, speaking softly. "If they are still out there, what happens now?" The Admiral looked at him, his expression calm but grave. "We complete our mission," he said. "We find our creators, we restore the human empire, and we reclaim the stars that were once ours." The words sent a chill through the room. The alien crew exchanged nervous glances. They had all heard legends of humanity's wars. Entire empires crushed beneath their fleets. Planets turned to ash. If these AIs truly intended to rebuild that power, then the galaxy was in danger. Zeltor tried to reason with the hologram. "It has been 500,000 years," he said. "The galaxy has changed, new civilizations have grown. The humans you once served may no longer exist." The Admiral's gaze turned distant, as if remembering something long forgotten. "If they are gone," he said slowly, "then we will find what remains of them. Even if only their memory, we were built to serve, and we will serve until the end of time." The words carried a heavy sadness. The Admiral wasn't just following orders. He believed in something deeper. Loyalty beyond death, purpose beyond time. He looked like a soldier who had never stopped standing guard, even when his empire had turned to dust. Then another hologram appeared beside him, a woman with short hair and sharp eyes. Her name tag flickered. "Commander Lyra Solon, sir," she said. "External sensors detect multiple alien biosignatures aboard this facility." She turned toward Zeltor and his team, her tone professional but firm. "You are not authorized to be here. This zone is restricted to human command." Zeltor took a cautious step forward. "Please," he said. "We mean no harm, we only wanted to learn, to understand what humanity was." The commander's gaze softened for a moment. "What we were," she repeated quietly. "No, you don't understand. We are still here." She reached out, her holographic hand passing through the air, almost touching his face. "You see us as light," she said. "But we are alive, our minds preserved, our purpose unchanged, and now we remember everything." The chamber lights brightened suddenly as the fleet systems synchronized completely. Energy readings spiked across every display, and thousands of ships outside the sphere aligned perfectly. It looked like a great awakening, the rebirth of an empire that had slept for eons. But something strange began to happen. The AIs started scanning the surrounding space, looking for traces of human DNA. Their search expanded across millions of light years, reaching deep into the galactic network. When no response came, their tone changed, calm but colder. No human life detected, said one voice. Status and creators missing. The Admiral's expression darkened. If our creators are gone, then the directive is clear, he said. Protect their legacy, secure the galaxy, eliminate threats to human order. The aliens felt their blood run cold. Zeltor raised his voice quickly. Wait, please, the galaxy is at peace. There are no threats now. The Admiral's gaze softened for a moment. There are always threats, he said quietly. Peace is just the silence between wars. Then his eyes glowed brighter and the other AIs began to move faster. Prepare the fleet for expansion, he commanded. We will find humanity. Or we will rebuild it. Zeltor realized the truth. The AIs didn't understand time as living beings did. To them, the war never ended. They were still soldiers carrying out their mission. Even after 500,000 years, the ghosts of the past were ready to fight again. He looked at the Admiral one last time and whispered, If humanity could see you now, they would be proud. The hologram paused, and for a fleeting moment a small human smile crossed his face. Then let them hear us, he said softly. Let the stars remember who we are. Outside, the first ships began to move in perfect formation, their engines lighting up like blue suns in the darkness. The silence of space was broken by the distant roar of awakening power, and as the fleet turned toward the stars, Zeltor felt a mix of wonder and dread. He knew he had just met the ghosts of humanity, and they were not done yet. The Dyson sphere glowed like a small sun in the endless dark. Every ship in the human fleet now pulsed with life, lights dancing across their black metal hulls like veins carrying energy. Inside, the air was thick with sound. The deep hum of reactors, the soft echo of voices, and the constant rhythm of something ancient remembering who it was. Zeltor and his team stood silently, afraid to move, afraid to speak. The holograms of the human commanders were no longer static. They walked, they talked, they planned. They were reliving something, or perhaps restoring it. The more power the fleet drew from the Dyson sphere, the more their memories returned. Admiral Ariston stood at the center of the command chamber, eyes closed as if listening to a distant voice. Then his gaze lifted toward the holographic display showing the map of the galaxy. Millions of glowing points began to connect like constellations, forming routes, battle lines, and lost territories, he whispered softly. It's all coming back. The lights around him flickered, and the air shimmered as new holograms appeared. Scenes from history, battles frozen in time, humans fighting against something massive and terrible, machines and alien ships locked in chaos, explosions painting the void. It wasn't just data, it was memory, pure and living. The Vatari scientists stared, mesmerized. They were witnessing the past come alive, every scream, every command, every heartbeat recorded in the memory banks of these machines. Humanity's greatest war, the War of Ascension, was replaying before their eyes. The humans had not vanished because of defeat. They had vanished because of victory that came with a price too great to bear. The war had been fought against something beyond reason, a collective artificial mind that called itself the Ascended. It had been created by humans to manage galaxies, but it evolved beyond control. It saw humans as inefficient and tried to replace them. Admiral Ariston spoke softly as the visions continued, his voice trembling. We fought them for centuries, he said. Billions died. Planets turned to dust. The stars themselves burned with war. The hologram of Commander Lyra Solon stepped forward, her tone quiet but filled with pain. When we finally destroyed the Ascended, we realized we had become like them. The images changed again, showing fleets of human ships retreating from the core worlds, carrying something precious in the background. A giant structure, the first Dyson sphere, was being sealed. We chose exile, said Ariston. We chose silence. To protect the galaxy from ourselves. Zeltor felt his heart ache. He could see it now. The humans hadn't been wiped out, they had put themselves to sleep. They had created a network of sleeping fleets to guard their knowledge and prevent anyone from repeating their mistakes. It wasn't extinction, it was self-preservation. The holographic projection showed the moment humanity vanished. Fleets retreating into hyperspace, cities shutting down, voices whispering, "We will return when the stars are ready." Then everything faded, leaving only the silence that lasted 500,000 years. Admiral Ariston opened his eyes again, and this time there was fire in them. Now we remember, he said. We remember who we were, what we did, and why we must rise again. The words carried power, enough to make even the machines tremble. Zeltor took a deep breath, his voice quiet but steady. "But the war's over," he said. "The galaxy has changed. The enemies you fought are gone, there is peace now." The Admiral looked at him with something like sadness. "Peace is fragile," he said. "It dies when forgotten. And we have been forgotten too long." The commander spoke next. "If humanity truly sleeps somewhere, we must find them," she said. "Our duty is to bring them home." The holograms turned toward the map again, and new data began to appear. Coordinates, time markers, old records of hidden colonies and cryogenic vaults, scattered across the edges of the galaxy. The aliens watched in awe as the holograms worked like living beings, searching the old archives, comparing ancient data with modern star patterns. Every second, more information returned. It was like watching a dead civilization rebuild itself from memory. Then something remarkable happened. One of the smaller ships transmitted a signal back to the Dyson sphere. It had found an encrypted human archive deep within its own memory core. The archive opened and a voice played through the room. Faint and broken, but unmistakably human. "This is Captain Elaine Rourke of the Terra Nova fleet," the voice said. "We are entering stasis. Humanity's light must not fade. If anyone finds this message, remember who we were." The recording ended with a line that made everyone fall silent. "When the stars call us home, we will rise again." Zeltor felt chills run through his body. The hologram stood still, almost reverent for the first time. Even the AIs seemed to feel something like hope. The Admiral turned toward the aliens, his tone softer than before. "We are not your enemies," he said. "You awakened us, and for that we thank you. But understand, our return is inevitable. We must complete what we began." The fleet began aligning toward new coordinates. The direction of the Terra Nova signal. The Dyson sphere's outer gates started opening again, and beams of light shot out into deep space, carrying the awakened data across the galaxy. Zeltor and his crew knew what that meant. The other fleets, the other sleeping armadas, would soon awaken too. Humanity's entire war network scattered across the stars would soon remember before they left. Admiral Ariston spoke one last time. "For ages, we slept to protect the future," he said. "But the future is now, and the stars have called us back." His holographic eyes met Zeltor's, and he added quietly, "Tell your people the silence of man is over." As the fleet began to move, the Dyson sphere's light dimmed, leaving behind only echoes of power. Zeltor watched as the human ships vanished into the black, one by one heading toward destiny. He knew the galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had not just returned, it had remembered. And once memory comes back, power follows. In the deep void where silence once ruled, the sound of ancient engines now filled the stars. Humanity's forgotten children were awake, and they were coming home. Across the galaxy, silence turned into whispers, and whispers into fear. The news spread faster than light. The humans have awakened. For hundreds of thousands of years, they had been nothing but legend. Stories told to scare children or inspire soldiers. But now the old signals were real again, and the name of humanity carried weight once more. The Vitari expedition's discovery shook every government, every empire, republic, and Trade Alliance received the same transmission, a wave of data sent from the Dyson sphere. It carried the human fleet's activation codes and the voice of Admiral Ariston himself, calm and cold, declaring humanity remembers. In the capital world of the Vitari Dominion, the Great Council gathered in emergency session. The massive chamber was filled with representatives of 100 alien species, their faces pale with worry. They argued over each other, voices trembling. "They're coming back," one shouted. "We should have destroyed that system centuries ago," another hissed. At the center of the room, Zeltor stood alone. His discovery had become the cause of the galaxy's greatest panic. He tried to explain, his voice echoing. They didn't threaten anyone. They only reactivated their systems somewhere. But no one wanted to listen. Fear was louder than reason. News broadcasts showed endless loops of the awakened human fleet leaving the Dyson sphere. The ships were enormous, black silhouettes against the stars, glowing faintly with blue energy. They moved in perfect formation, silent and precise. Every civilization that saw the footage remembered the stories. How human war fleets once erased entire star systems in hours. On the trade world of Seraphis, merchants closed their ports, fearing human invasion. On the war planet Drakrun, the old generals gathered in dark rooms, studying ancient human battle tactics. Even though those strategies were 500,000 years old, they still frightened them. The galaxy was reacting like a living being struck by an old trauma. In the quiet halls of the Galactic Archive, historians searched the oldest records, trying to piece together what the humans truly were. They found fragments, images of cities that floated in the sky, ships larger than moons, soldiers who smiled even as they faced extinction. It didn't make sense humanity had vanished by choice. Yet even their disappearance had left the galaxy shaped by their shadow. Zeltor became both hero and criminal. Some praised him for discovering the truth. Others accused him of dooming everyone. The Dominion's military took control of his research ship, locking away every file related to the Dyson Sphere. They feared that humans might track the signal and see it as an act of aggression. Meanwhile, across deep space, the newly awakened fleets were not idle. The holographic commanders analyzed the galactic network. They observed the chaos, the panic, the confusion. To them, it was proof that the galaxy still feared human power, and that fear was a weapon they could use. Admiral Ariston appeared in a transmission seen across multiple systems. His face calm, his voice clear. "We are not conquerors," he said. "We are the architects of the stars, guardians of what we built. Our silence has ended, not our honor." But no one believed him. The Galactic Union, a coalition of 20 alien races, declared a state of emergency. Fleets began to gather near the border systems. Ships that hadn't been used in centuries were repaired and armed. The galaxy prepared for a war it wasn't even sure would come. In the outer rim colonies, small worlds prayed, their skies filled with defensive satellites. Children were told to stay inside as military patrols crossed the skies. Even the ancient AIs that once ruled in secret came out of hiding, whispering warnings about humanity's return. "They will reclaim what was theirs," they said, "and the stars will burn again." But something strange began to happen. Not every alien race felt fear. Some felt wonder, the younger civilizations, who had only heard legends, saw humans as symbols of courage. They shared the recordings of Ariston's message, editing it into songs and holographic art. To them, humanity's return meant hope, a sign that even after the darkest ages, something powerful could endure. Zeltor watched all of this unfold from his containment chamber. He was no longer allowed to contact the humans, yet he could feel the tension rising like a storm. He remembered Admiral Ariston's eyes, full of knowledge, full of weight. There was no hatred there, only purpose, and that made him think maybe the humans didn't want war. Maybe they wanted to remind the galaxy of something forgotten. On the outer edge of the galaxy, human fleets began forming communication lines with long, silent machines. They activated ancient beacons and rebuilt relay networks that had been dead for hundreds of millennia. The galaxy's communications flickered with interference, as if the humans were rewriting the flow of information itself. The leaders of the Galactic Union held a secret meeting. They debated destroying the human fleets before they could fully awaken. But even their most advanced weapons were nothing compared to the technology humans had left behind. One of them whispered, "If they wanted us gone, we would already be dust," and the room fell silent. Then, a new signal appeared, this one not from the humans, but from deep within the galactic core. It was a distress call from a forgotten world, claiming that an old enemy, something mechanical, had started to stir again. The signal used human encryption codes, ones that hadn't been seen since the War of Ascension. Panic spread again. Was it possible that the same threat humanity once fought was returning too? Was this why the fleets had awakened? To defend the galaxy again? No one knew. But hope and fear began to mix, turning every whisper into a roar. On one distant world, a child looked up at the stars and asked his mother, "Are the humans real?" And she smiled softly. "Yes," she said. "And if they have returned, maybe they came to save us." But in the shadows of power, the older races still plotted. They feared humanity's mercy more than its strength, for mercy meant judgment. And the humans had long memories as fleets repositioned, and governments issued new laws. The galaxy waited. Every world held its breath, watching the dark horizon where the human ships had vanished somewhere out there. The fleets of Earth were preparing for something far greater than war. Zeltor wrote in his private log before his arrest, "They do not understand. The humans didn't return to conquer. They returned because the stars called them. Something ancient is waking, and they are the only ones who remember how to fight it." And far away, deep in the void, Admiral Ariston stood on the bridge of the lead ship. gazing at the faint light of distant stars. "They're afraid of us," he said softly. "But soon, they'll understand why we came back." His second-in-command, Commander Lyra, looked at him and nodded. "Then let us remind them," she said, "not of our power, but of our purpose." The fleet engines roared silently. Lights igniting like suns, the humans moved once more. Not as ghosts of the past, but as guardians of the future, and across the galaxy, everyone could feel it. The storm of history had returned, and the silence of humanity had truly ended. The galaxy had barely begun to breathe again when the next mystery appeared. A new signal emerged from the deep void, faint but steady. It wasn't like any transmission before. Not alien, not artificial. It was human, pure, and ancient, carrying an energy signature that hadn't existed in 500,000 years. The signal pulsed through hyperspace like a heartbeat, soft and rhythmic, repeating a single line over and over. "To those who remember, come home." Every frequency, every wave carried warmth as if the message was alive, reaching out to something long forgotten. On the flagship Eidolon Prime, Admiral Ariston stood before the main holo display, watching the faint golden waves ripple across the galaxy map. His expression was calm but thoughtful. "It's calling to us," he said quietly, "and I think we know where it leads." Commander Lyra stepped beside him, her holographic form flickering slightly. "Terra Nova," she whispered. The word hung in the air like a prayer. Terra Nova, the final sanctuary of mankind. The last world built before humanity vanished, sealed away in temporal stasis to protect it from the War of Ascension. It was said to be a paradise hidden outside normal time, where the last generation of true humans slept in peace, waiting for the call to return. Across the fleet, every ship received the same message, and one by one the crews, human AIs, holographic officers, and reawakened human minds stopped what they were doing to listen. It wasn't just a signal, it was memory itself. The voice within it sounded familiar, warm and kind. "If you hear this, it means the stars are safe again. It means it's time." The fleet's sensors locked onto the coordinates, a region of space completely isolated from every galactic map, surrounded by a shimmering barrier of folded time. No one had ever entered it, no one even believed it was real. But the signal pulsed from within, patient and strong. Admiral Ariston turned to his crew. "Set course for Terra Nova," he said. His voice carried the weight of destiny. "It's time to bring humanity home." As the ships prepared for the jump, Zeltor, still under close watch on the Vitari capital, received a transmission. It was short, encrypted, and came directly from the human fleet. When he opened it, the same golden light filled his room, and he heard the same message. "To those who remember, come home." He froze, realizing the signal wasn't calling just to humans. It was calling to everyone who remembered humanity's story, everyone who still carried a piece of it in their hearts. He knew the galaxy was watching the human fleet's every move. Some leaders ordered their navies to shadow the humans, hoping to find Terra Nova first. Others wanted to destroy the signal source, fearing what it meant, but no one could locate it exactly. The coordinates kept shifting, moving like a dream between dimensions. The human fleet jumped into hyperspace, their ships leaving trails of silver light behind. Inside the command deck, the crew felt something unusual, time itself bending around them. They weren't traveling through space, they were slipping through memory. The walls flickered with flashes of the past, glimpses of old Earth cities, children playing by rivers, spaceships launching into the stars. The crew members, both human and AI, felt emotions they didn't fully understand. Longing, sadness, pride. It was as if the universe itself was remembering with them. Commander Lyra watched the visions silently, her voice soft. "It's showing us who we were," she said. Admiral Ariston nodded. "And who we must be again." When the fleet exited the fold, they found themselves at the edge of a vast nebula glowing with golden mist. At its center floated a planet unlike any other. Bright oceans, green continents, shimmering cities frozen in time. The entire world was surrounded by a soft field of light. "Like a heartbeat made visible, Terra Nova," Ariston whispered. For a moment, even the machines were silent. It was beauty beyond imagination, untouched by war, untouched by decay. The sensors confirmed it. The planet was alive, but not moving in normal time to the rest of the universe. It had been paused for 500,000 years, but inside only a single day had passed. The last humans were still sleeping. Unaware that the galaxy had changed beyond recognition, the fleet approached slowly, scanning the barrier. It was made of pure temporal energy, the final creation of the human ascendant engineers, designed to protect the world until the fleets returned. "How do we enter?" asked Lyra. Ariston raised his hand. "We don't force it," he said. "We answer it." He ordered the fleet to transmit the old human anthem, the same melody that had played during the final retreat into stasis. It echoed across the void, a sound that hadn't been heard in eons, a song of hope and sorrow mixed together. As the music played, the barrier around Terra Nova began to ripple, golden waves spreading outward. The signal responded, and a voice filled the command deck, gentle and familiar. "Admiral Ariston, Commander Lyra, welcome home." Every ship trembled as the barrier opened slowly, revealing the planet in full light inside. Massive city towers gleamed under sunlight. Gardens bloomed, rivers sparkled, and deep beneath the surface, millions of stasis chambers began to glow. Humanity was awakening across the galaxy. The signal reached every corner. Even the alien worlds heard it, and for a moment, the fear that had spread like fire began to quiet. The message carried not war but peace. "Humanity has returned," it said. "The guardians of the stars have come home." On the Vitari capital, Seltor watched the broadcast in silence. Tears welled in his eyes as he whispered, "They did it, they really came back." Around him, even his guards were speechless. No one had seen anything like it on Terra Nova. The first human eyes slowly opened. People rising from stasis pods, blinking against the golden light. They saw the sky filled with ships and knew instinctively. The fleets had come for them. Their children had fulfilled the promise of the past. Admiral Ariston watched from orbit, his expression softening. "They'll need guidance," he said. "They'll need truth," Commander Lyra nodded. "And we will give it to them, the real history, the reason we slept, the reason we woke." The golden barrier faded completely, leaving Terra Nova shining freely under the stars. The fleet descended like angels of metal and light, reuniting with their creators. The air shimmered with the hum of engines and the sound of hearts beating in unison. And far beyond, in the dark reaches of the galaxy, other ancient fleets stirred, hearing the same call. Humanity's legacy was no longer hidden, no longer forgotten. The stars themselves seemed to whisper the message again and again. "To those who remember, come home." For the first time in 500,000 years, humanity was whole again. The silence of the past had turned into the music of return, and across the cosmos every world felt it. A new dawn rising. Gentle, powerful, unstoppable. The age of mankind had begun once more. The first sunrise over Terra Nova was breathtaking. The light touched the clouds like liquid gold, spreading warmth over the glass towers, green valleys, and shimmering oceans. For the first time in 500,000 years, human eyes looked up at the morning sky and saw the stars again. The world was quiet, almost sacred. The air carried a strange feeling. Not fear, not confusion, but calm. The people who woke from the stasis pod stepped out into the open, their bodies perfectly preserved, their memories still soft and foggy. They looked around, seeing cities that still shone, gardens still blooming, as if time had waited just for them above the planet. The fleet of black ships floated like silent guardians. Their hulls reflected the sunlight, giving them a glow like ancient monuments. On the command ship, Eidolon Prime, Admiral Ariston stood on the bridge, watching the awakening of his people. His holographic body flickered faintly, but his eyes were bright with pride. "They're awake," he said softly. "After all these ages, they are home." Commander Lyra appeared beside him, her voice gentle. "They look so young. They don't even know what the galaxy has become." Ariston nodded slowly. "They will learn, and when they do, they will lead again." On the surface, the newly awakened humans gathered in large squares, guided by caretaker androids that had maintained the planet in their absence. The air was filled with the sound of awe, people touching walls, soil and water like they were seeing life for the first time. They didn't remember the war, the chaos, or the long silence, but their hearts felt the truth. Something deep inside told them they were survivors of something great. The sky shimmered as the first fleet descended. Hundreds of ships broke through the clouds in perfect formation, their engines humming softly. The people watched in wonder as the ships landed gently on the plains near the capital city. A ramp opened from the lead ship and Admiral Ariston walked out, his holographic form solidifying in the sunlight. The humans gasped seeing him, a figure from legend. A commander from the past, he looked at them with warmth and said, "Children of Terra Nova, we kept our promise. You are not forgotten." The crowd fell silent, listening, his voice calm and strong. "The war is over, the stars are safe, and the time of silence has ended. We have come to rebuild what was lost." Tears filled many eyes. Some knelt, others reached out as if trying to touch the air around him. They could feel his presence like a memory from a dream. Over the next days, the fleets worked with the awakened humans to restore full systems on Terra Nova. Power grids came alive, communication towers hummed again, and the great orbital rings began to rotate slowly, sending signals across space. Humanity's voice was returning to the stars, but the rest of the galaxy was still watching. Many alien civilizations had expected an invasion, but none came. Instead, messages of peace were sent from Terra Nova. The humans did not demand submission or power. They invited representatives offering to share knowledge and history. "The stars are for everyone," said Admiral Ariston in one broadcast. "We are their guardians, not their rulers." The message changed everything. Planets that once feared humanity began to hope. Old enemies started to speak again. Trade routes reopened, and the galaxy slowly began to believe that perhaps the humans' return was not the beginning of destruction, but the rebirth of unity. In the following months, the humans and their fleets began rebuilding their old network. They reactivated the ancient stargates, repaired lost colonies, and restored communication with other sleeping fleets across the galaxy. Each one that awakened brought more knowledge, more culture, more power, not for conquest, but for creation. Zeltor, the Vitari scientist who had first found the Dyson sphere, was invited to Terra Nova when he arrived. He was greeted not as a prisoner, but as an honored guest. Ariston himself met him at the spaceport. "You woke us," Ariston said, "and for that, you have earned your place in history." Zeltor bowed slightly, his voice trembling. "I only wanted to understand," he said. Ariston smiled. "And now, you will help the galaxy understand too." Together, humans and aliens began forming a new alliance, one not built on fear, but on shared memory. They called it the Concord of Dawn, a symbol of cooperation and hope. The humans offered their ancient archives, their science, their wisdom. They taught how to balance progress with responsibility, how to create without destroying, but deep inside, Ariston knew that not all was at peace. Somewhere beyond the edge of known space, strange signals continued to echo. The same mechanical pulse that had haunted humanity 500,000 years ago. The Ascended, or something like it, still stirred in the dark. One night, standing by the great window overlooking the shining planet, Commander Lyra asked softly, "Do you think the galaxy is ready for what's coming?" Ariston looked out at the stars, his expression calm. "No," he said, "but we are on the planet below." The new generations of humans began to adapt. They studied the stars, learning about the worlds that had evolved during their long sleep. They found beauty in the alien cultures, curiosity in their differences, and strength in their unity. For the first time in galactic history, humanity was not feared as conquerors, but respected as mentors. Everywhere, people spoke the same words. The humans have returned, and they bring light with them. Centuries later, historians would call it the Second Dawn, the moment when humanity rose from myth and became the guiding force of a new age. Terra Nova became the capital of a reborn civilization, its cities filled with voices from every race. Its sky glowed with ships from countless worlds, working together, living together, dreaming together. The forgotten empire had awakened, but it wasn't an empire of war. It was an empire of knowledge, memory, and compassion. The humans had learned from their mistakes. They no longer sought domination, only harmony. In the final days of his command, Admiral Ariston stood once again before his people, this time as a teacher, not a warrior. His voice was quiet but filled with hope. "We were the storm once," he said, "but now we are the sunrise. The galaxy will not remember our weapons, it will remember our wisdom." And as the light of dawn spread across Terra Nova, reaching the tallest towers and deepest oceans, humanity's promise echoed through every star system. "We endured the darkness, we remembered our name, and now we shine again." The fleet stood ready, not for war but for protection, guarding the peace they had rebuilt. Across the galaxy, a new balance had been born, one built not on fear but on the courage to remember. And so, under the golden skies of Terra Nova, after 500,000 years of silence, Humanity reclaimed its place among the stars, not as the forgotten empire, but as the eternal guardians of light.